The lie had its own ringtone. Not a sound, exactly, more like a quiet that arrived right on schedule. Daniela's phone went to airplane mode every night at 10, a ritual I used to find admirable. Executives need boundaries. Sleep hygiene matters. The first time her screen lit with a tiny airplane and a lock icon, she winked and said, "Doctor's orders. If I answer one email, I'll answer 50." I smiled and rolled closer. For months, I let that quiet be a kindness we gave each other. Then the airline app on my phone started being helpful. "Your upcoming flight to Denver has been delayed." I wasn't flying to Denver. Daniela was. She had a client meeting, a breakout session, a dinner, a breakfast, a reason to be in conference halls for 2 days straight. The delay notification arrived the same moment her phone turned into a little metal rectangle of vows. No texts, no calls, no proof of anything new. I told myself that none of this was evidence. I have a long, annoying relationship with fairness. The flight was canceled at 9:23. Another notification told me passengers would be rebooked on a morning departure. I waited for Daniela to call from the airport to say she'd be home to ask if I could pick her up. The kitchen clock clicked like a tongue. When I called, I got her voicemail. "You've reached Danny. Leave what I need to know." I left love and worry and a question, and then another question disguised as a joke. The little airplane stayed on her screen like a guard who didn't know me. Fairness will only get you so far. Curiosity finishes the job. I opened our car insurance app and checked the driving history, something I'd never done. A small map unfurled like a Venus system. Daniela's car had traveled across town around the time the flight died, then stopped for the night on a street I didn't have a reason to visit, Maple and 7th, a block of wide porches and rented happiness. I didn't dress for drama. I put on a sweater and the good sense to expect nothing useful, then drove to Maple. The porch lights on that street knew how to be flattering. Her car was there, dark blue and honest, glinting under a maple tree that had not signed up to supervise this. I parked around the corner and waited with the engine off, a person rehearsing lines they hoped not to use. Daniela came out at 10:41 with a man whose posture said he worked with his hands or had told his posture to say that. They didn't kiss. They didn't touch. He stood on the porch like it owed him something, and she came down 2 steps and spoke in the voice she reserves for strangers who are making her job harder. He laughed, small and ugly, and lifted his shoulders as if wearing invisible armor that did not fit. When she turned away, he caught her wrist. Not hard, not theatrical, just enough that my body made a sound I'd never heard it make. She pulled free fast, said something sharp, and walked to her car with the kind of grace you gain from practicing it after bad meetings. I didn't confront him. He had a face I would forget on purpose. I followed her home and parked behind her. Inside, she held up her phone like a student caught with a contraband item and said, too loudly, "Airport chaos." I grabbed a couch at Alyssa's. It would have been plausible if she had been carrying an overnight bag or wearing the sweater she keeps in her trunk for aggressive air conditioning. The lie had a seam showing. "Your flight was canceled," I said, handing her the information like a towel. I checked the app. She blinked, recalculating. "They said maybe the red-eye would go," she tried. "Then it didn't. I didn't want to wake you." She set the phone face down on the counter. The airplane icon, saved by habit, glowed faintly before the screen went black again. "I went for a drive," I said. "I didn't add the street names. There are ways to be merciful while holding a map." Her shoulders dropped in a choreography I recognized from intermission in an argument. The moment when the props are heavy and the audience hasn't gone home. "It's not what you're thinking," she said, and then, almost immediately, "It's close." The admission arrived like weather. We sat at the table we'd built from a kit, the one with a barely noticeable wobble we keep meaning to fix. She told me about Oliver from procurement who became Oliver from everywhere, funny in an elevator, generous with praise in the kind of way that lets a person pretend it's not praise at all. It made everything feel brighter by exactly 5%, she said, and I believed her because I know how little brightness you need to start mismeasuring your life. Did you sleep with him? I asked. On television, people ask questions like this in rooms with better lighting and the answers arrive on time. In our kitchen, the question sat between the salt and the pepper and remembered our anniversary dinners. No, she said, and then, for once, didn't build a speech to hold the word up. Not yet. I told myself it would be a relief if the flight got canceled so I could go home and pretend the wanting was smaller. She laughed, surprised by the sound. Instead, I went to his porch and told him I was confused, and he mistook my confusion for a promise. The relief I felt was not the noble kind. It felt like oxygen, greedy and hot. I also felt something I didn't expect, the urge to be kind. Airplane mode doesn't work on houses, I said, or on wrists. I gestured to hers. The skin where her watch usually lived was pale. She left it in the bowl by the door as if it were a witness she could excuse. Daniela stared at the bowl like it might testify anyway. I'm tired, she said. Not of you. I'm tired of being a person everyone expects to be plugged in, and the only way to feel anything quiet is to chase something that should be loud. We made tea because it was the only adult thing left. She took her phone off airplane mode and laid it between us. The screen woke into a galaxy of unanswered pings. A message from Oliver arrived at last, full of cowardly adjectives, confusing, complicated, unfair, and a photo he had taken of his own porch like it was a stage he wanted reviewed. Daniela typed 3 sentences and showed me before she hit send. I'm going home to fix what I broke. Don't contact me outside work. This isn't a cliff I want to try, she sent it. His reply, the absence of it, gave the room back its walls. We slept diagonally, the way you do when you're learning the size of your bed again. In the dark, she reached for my arm and found it. We'll need help, she said. I could feel the apology in her voice from the inside. I don't trust my internal settings right now. Me either, I said, surprised to hear it, and unsurprised that it was true. We can borrow some. Therapy is borrowing good settings from someone who will let you give them back when yours start working. In the morning, she made pancakes too carefully, as if accuracy could be a new virtue. We ate quietly and without ceremony. I drove her to the office because her hands were not ready to be the only responsible ones in a moving machine. On the way, a plane rose through a wrinkled layer of cloud the color of old receipts. For once, nobody in our car wished they were on it. Weeks later, she sent me a calendar invite labeled simply Tuesday Us. It repeats indefinitely. Sometimes we eat dinner someplace small where the waiter tells us what's good without making a performance of it. Sometimes we walk the long way home because the lights in other people's windows look generous. We both keep our phones on, but the sounds they make aren't the loudest thing anymore. The silence that arrives at 10 o'clock doesn't pretend to be an airplane. It sounds like 2 people doing the work of choosing the same sky.